Now, I know you guys have heard this over and over again here on this channel about how dangerous the food here is, and not only America, but other Western countries as well too. But I think it's important to kind of reiterate and take a deeper dive, because I think a lot of people are living under this assumption that because, we live in a society where you're supposed to have ethics and you're supposed to have morals, everybody is under the impression that the food industry is just doing their best, the best that they can do, and that we have governmental agencies in place that are there to protect us. And what I'm going to do in this conversation is help you understand why, yes, some of those things are true. We are supposed to have governmental agencies like the USDA, the FDA, the CDC, and so forth and so on, who are there to protect us and create guidelines and standards to protect us as the people of this country and other countries. But what I think is really important to understand is that it's been compromised. And when I help go through these 8 reasons why the food system today is so corrupt compared to 50, 60 years ago, then you will have a better understanding. See, today, most people will say, well, the food tastes good. You eat it 1, 2, 3 times, you don't perish. You don't unlive yourself from eating the food. And so people are under the impression that, well, I've been eating this since I was 16, no problem. But I think what people don't understand is how sick we are today, and how sicker we are at a younger age. Like, it used to be where having a heart attack or a stroke was something you did in your 60s and your 70s. But now we're seeing people in their 20s have heart attacks and strokes. Now we're seeing people in their early 30s have an aneurysm. Now we're seeing young people, teenagers, have cancer. Now we're starting to see people have all of these issues that were non-existent. Fatty liver disease was a disease that you only got if you had, issues with alcoholism. But now, for the most part, most people are getting non-alcoholic fatty liver disease as a result of most of them don't even drink alcohol, or don't drink a lot of it. And so I think it's really important for us to kind of address the pink elephant in the room, because a lot of people just don't want to blame food. And I think a lot of people don't want to blame food is because people will say, I love this food. And I always tell people, if you're in a relationship where you're the only person you're the only one that loves, but it's not giving love in return, you're in a toxic relationship. And most people are in a toxic relationship when it comes to their food. Okay, so I want to address why our food system, especially here in America, is so corrupt. I've told you before, most of American food is banned in 30 countries. Okay, they have to the food company has to change the ingredients to be able to sell the food in the country. And they have to change it to a healthier product, which makes me ask myself, why wouldn't they just do that in the first place? For the people who are in the country where the food company is actually made and is from. Okay, so I think it's really important that you start to get a real good understanding of not only how toxic the food system is, but how toxic the food is today. It is nothing like our grandparents and great parents. It's nothing like that. And I think being a food scientist, being a scientist in general, and now being on the natural side of things, I have a very different understanding of this. So without any further ado, we're going to jump into first helping you understand what's so toxic about the food, and then we'll go into why the system itself is so corrupt. Because I think you need to first at least get a tad bit of understanding of what's so toxic about the food, and then you can understand why the system itself is so corrupt. So before I get started, if you have not hit that subscribe button to become part of my family, please do hit that subscribe button right now. You don't even have to start the video. Just hit the subscribe button. Hit a like if you love this video afterwards, and make sure you share this content with somebody you like, love, appreciate so that we can get this message out, because it's not just about me, it's about us. All right, so let's go. What's so toxic about the food system? Well, the vast majority of food today is made from a genetically modified seed, okay? And it's not just the fruits and vegetables that are genetically modified, it's the meat as well too, okay? You've heard about, genetically modified salmon. You've heard about a lot of things that are going on today. So everything is becoming a science experiment, so to least. So that's one toxic thing about it. And what's so toxic about that? Because the more genetically modified it is, the more pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides you have to spray it with. And I don't have to go into, helping you understand how if a pesticide, herbicide, and insecticide can kill a plant, can kill a rodent, can kill insects, then a toxic dose of it can actually kill you, because you're eating a dose of it every time you eat food, okay? If you're not conscious about the food decisions that you're making, all right? So that's a few things. The next thing is they feed these GMO crops to animals, okay? They feed them to the pigs, cows, chickens that most people are consuming today. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, what's so bad about that? Well, if you're directly feeding an animal something that is highly sprayed with pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides, something that is genetically modified, something that the animal shouldn't be eating in the first place. Cows don't eat genetically modified soy and corn. That's not what they eat. That's not even what their digestive systems are made to eat. And this is why these animals get so sick so quickly, have cancer. This is why you're seeing things like mad cow disease. This is why you're seeing so many recalls on, meat products and things of that nature, is because they're literally feeding them poison, okay? Which is making them sick, and in the process making you sick as well too. The other reason why the food industry is so toxic is because they do a lot of monocropping. So you don't have what you would think of as a farmer like back in the day, who's rotating crops, who's growing regeneratively with the ecosystem. Like, you don't have that anymore. You just have these acres and thousands of acres of land that is literally growing just soy, okay? 90% of the soy in America is genetically modified. 95%, I believe, of the corn is genetically modified, okay? So hugely important to understand what they're doing is they're just growing one crop. And if you know anything about farming, when you farm the right way, you're gonna farm with nature, which means that you gotta rotate your crops. You're not just gonna grow pineapples on this land. You're not just gonna grow peanuts on this land. You're not just gonna grow cotton on this land. You're not just gonna grow one crop, monocrop, one crop on this land. You're gonna rotate. And not only are you gonna rotate, you're gonna rotate with crops that are beneficial to each other, okay? And you're gonna actually grow food in diversity. So it won't be one crop, it'll be a multitude of things that feed the soil instead of rip all of the nutrients out of the soil. And now the soil becomes deficient, and now the food that you're eating becomes deficient as well too, okay? Number 4, food chemicals. A huge reason why the food industry is so toxic and the food is so toxic is because the vast majority of scientists being hired today is from and for the food industry. They're trying to figure out how to make this new potato chip taste like watermelon without putting any watermelon in it. I know that sounds crazy, but it's all science. It's all spectroscopy, gas chromatography. It's literal science. And it's scientists figuring out how to create these inflection points with unnatural things to taste like things that you're familiar with from nature. So they're using these food chemicals not only to tickle your taste buds, but to get your taste buds addicted. And not only for that purpose, but also to make you overconsume the food as well too. So for the purposes of food addiction, for the purposes of making the food last forever, okay? Go from, in its most natural form, can last maybe 7 days, to now in its most highly processed form being able to last for 3 years when you look at the expiration date, to make you addicted to the food as well too. This is what they're doing with the food chemistry, and all this food chemistry is really great for the food company, but it's horrible for your health, okay?